leg stretches. And so for this series, I want you to first find a neutral pelvis. So find your pubic bone and your hip bones level. Have your feet a hips distance apart. Your feet are pointing straight ahead. And you'll want to have that strap handy for this series. Pubic bone, hip bones level. And then to start with, we're just going to figure out how to level out the pelvis. So we're going to imprint the low back. So take your low back, push it into the floor, and feel how your pubic bone lifts up, okay? That's a posterior tilt. And then from here, we're going to go into a back bend. So lengthen your pubic bone away from your belly button. Feel how the hip bones, the sacroiliac crest lifts, and you get more of a back bend. So that's an anterior tilt. And then bring it back to neutral so that the pubic bone, hip bones are level. Okay, we're just going to go back and forth. We're going to imprint the low back, drawing the pubic bone towards the belly button, and then we're going to take the pubic bone away from the belly button to arch the back. So just going back and forth, back and forth. Is anybody not understanding this motion and needs help finding it? Try and relax that right shoulder for me. So even if it means keeping a knee bent, I want you to keep a neutral pelvis, like really work on it, okay? So do less, but we've got to find that pelvis, okay? So back and forth, 3 more times, and then stop with a neutral pelvis. And we all figured out that motion, great. So we all now know what it feels like to imprint the low back. And the moment you lift your foot up off the floor, you're gonna wanna imprint your low back, but don't do it. So really feel that you're lengthening the pubic bone, fire up those legs. Sometimes it helps to lift the toes, and then lift the right foot, interlace your fingers over the shin or behind the shin, but try not to let the low back imprint. If you're totally new to yoga, don't worry about it. It can imprint, but see if you can keep that natural lumbar curve. Take your sit bone towards the end of the mat, let your shoulders relax, both feet are active. You've got an imaginary block between your thighs, and then if you want more of a stretch, you can straighten out the left leg. But if that causes you to imprint the low back or to drop the right hip, it's better to keep the sole of the left foot onto the floor. Ankles, knees, and hips are always in a nice straight line. Yeah, so this has to come down. Yeah, there we go. Active, active legs. Close your eyes, find your breath. So now you can feel that your pelvis is level on the floor. So there's just as much weight in the right side of the pelvis as there is the left side of the pelvis. And so for the first stage of this next pose, we want to make sure we keep the right side of the pelvis down, okay? So that we get the stretch where we can get the stretch. We don't want to avoid some of the good stretch by rushing the pose. So we're going to keep the left hand on the right knee, and we're going to take the right hand onto the floor outside the right hip. Keep working the right butt away from the right armpit. Keep the right side of the pelvis on the floor. Left leg doesn't change at all as you take the right leg over the left thigh without rotating either leg. So left heel is centered, and you just take that right knee and you just draw it over the right thigh without the right side of the pelvis lifting. So if the sacrum lifts, then you've gone too far. Yeah, and then so this stays down. So yeah, bingo. Yeah, so just the leg goes. Nice, press into both feet. So active, active, push, push, push. Nice. So you're just drawing that over. Now root the right side of the pelvis, and if you want more of a stretch, think about taking the right femur into the pelvis. So as we move into the next stage of the pose, the left leg doesn't change at all. So the left heel remains centered, the left knee and the left toes have to point straight up towards the sky. But the pelvis can lift off the floor just a little bit. So as we go deeper, and we can do this with the sole of the foot on the floor, we just allow the right side of the pelvis to lift, but the left leg doesn't move at all. Make sure you're pressing into both feet, thinking about the floating ribs coming to one another and to the floor, and both your shoulders stay on the floor. Root into your arms. Gaze right up at the ceiling. Think armpits and shoulders level.
And both hips down?
Level. Nope, so the pelvis can lift, but the leg can't move. There you go. Perfect.
And then is it normal to feel like the front of my ankle when flexing the feet?
Well, you probably haven't exercised your feet a ton. So when you first start working with me, because I really believe in strong feet, you're going to feel your feet often cramping. Yeah.
It's more just in the front from like flexing them.
Yeah, muscles, right? Yeah. You can do a Barbie foot too, which is a nice way to do it. Yeah, but just active. Yeah, good. And don't go to 10 or 10, right? Go to like 8 or to 10. Does that make sense? Yeah, so stick with your numbers, even with the foot, even with the hands. Good. Let's go 3 more breaths here. And then when those 3 breaths are complete, I want you to bring your pelvis down nice and slow. Think of your pelvis as if it was a sushi roller. And you know how there's those thin bamboo sort of rods? I want you to bring one bamboo rod down at a time as you bring your pelvis onto the floor. Your pelvis is a sushi roller, and you want to bring it down one bamboo rod at a time as opposed to clump. Until eventually the whole pelvis is down evenly. The right hand is going to come to the right knee, and the left hand is going to come to the left thigh hip area. Don't let the left thigh hip lift, and keep a neutral pelvis. So no imprinting as you take the right knee out to the right. Left leg still hasn't moved at all. Keep both feet active, shoulders level. And as you take the right leg out to the right, you're going to notice that that right hip wants to drop and down, closer to the floor. So use the left leg more to keep that right hip bone from sinking to the earth. Make sure the neck and the shoulders are relaxed. Let's come a little bit lower and just see. Nice, we need something just in between. Let me get a little something. Let's go 3 more breaths here. Nice to see progress here, honey. There we go. And then nice and slow, we're just going to bring that right knee back to center. Interlacing our fingers over the right shin and just pull it in for a nice release. And then let that right foot come down to the floor. Find your feet a hip's distance apart, soles of the feet on the floor, pubic bone, hip bones level. Nice long spine, shoulders relaxed. Really think about not imprinting your low back as you draw your left thigh to you. Interlacing your fingers, this time left hand on top of right, either over the shin or behind the thighs. Make sure the feet are active, make sure both legs are active. Visualize a block between your thighs that you're squeezing, and as you gently pull the leg to you, equally lift the leg up. And if you straighten the left leg on one side, feel free to straighten the right leg on this side. Make sure the shoulders aren't being lifted up. Make sure the chin's not being lifted away from the sternum, but keep that nice neutral neck. So tuck your chin just a wee bit, Keith. Bingo, right there. So again, neutral pelvis is your priority. Try to stay right on the center of that right heel so that the right knee and the right toes are pointing right up towards the sky. So with you, let's bend this. Yeah, bingo. Go down. Then the knee can point up. So from here, we're going to keep the pelvis on the floor for the next stage of the pose. We're going to let the left hand float onto the floor, but we're going to keep the right hand on the left knee. Keep sitting the left butt into a chair and keep the left side of the pelvis down as you take the left leg over the right leg. The right leg does not rotate out. The right knee, right toes point straight up. Both feet are active. And if you're looking for more stretch, think about pulling the left thigh bone back into the pelvis. Root your shoulders, root your ribs. Imagine there's a bench underneath that left thigh and push that left thigh into a bench. Nice, smooth, even breaths. And so from here, we're going to go a little deeper. The right leg doesn't change at all, but we allow the left side of the pelvis to lift as we take the left leg over the right leg. A little deeper. Maybe it goes deeper, maybe it stays where it is. Just the pelvis lifts. Don't let the right leg change. Stay right on the center of that right leg with the right knee pointing up. So you feel how the legs rotating? Yeah, bingo. So this series is used a lot, particularly with physiotherapists, to get rid of knee and back pain. It's a really good series as we get older, particularly for men. It really gets guys where they get tight. But good for everybody. Particularly essential for athletic people. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, think sushi roller and bring your pelvis down one little bit at a time. One little bit at a time so you don't miss one little bit of stretch. And then once the pelvis is all the way down and the knee is over the hip, left hand comes to the left knee, right hand comes to the right thigh, right hip. Press into your feet, super, super active. And without the pelvis changing from neutral, take the left knee out to the left side. Try not to let that left hip get closer to the floor than the right hip. Active, active legs will help. Big, beautiful breaths here. Keep both feet very active, both shoulders completely relaxed. And then nice and slow, bringing that left leg back to center. Interlace your fingers, once again, left hand on top of right, and just pull that left leg in towards you. And if you want to release the pelvis a bit, you can, especially if you're not used to holding it. And then let that left foot come down to the floor. Bend your knees and feet are a hip's distance apart. You've got your strap in your hand. And then take the time to find the neutral pelvis. Pubic bone, hip bones are level. Take the strap over the sole of the right foot and straighten out that right leg. Walk your hands up the strap. So we want to keep a neutral pelvis and we want to have a straight leg. So even if that means taking your leg quite a bit away from you to get it straight, it's better to have a straight leg than to have a bent right knee. If the right leg is straight, then you can straighten out the left leg like we did with the, in the previous set. But if that's too intense, you bend the left knee and bring the sole of the left foot onto the floor. So really listen to your body. Ideally, you want to have straight arms, so you're going to walk the arms up the strap. And you don't want to wrap the fingers or the palms unless your fingers or your hands are fatiguing. It's nice to try and work those hand muscles at the same time. Press into both feet. So one strap in one hand, other strap in the other hand. If it tugs into your shoulders, then you can bring your elbows on the floor. So I'm thinking, let's bend this knee. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you walk the foot away a little if you feel like you need to, but I think this will be enough. Listen to your shoulders, elbows on the floor is going to be more mellow too, right? We want them to get strong, but be gentle. With straight arms, just think about pulling your elbows apart a little bit. You're pulling on the strap and you're pushing on the strap.
Good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you try the straight leg?
Yeah, give it a shot, girl. See how it feels. There you go. Tuck your chin just a little bit, Keith. And both you guys, listen to your bodies. If you want to bend those left knees, no harm in it. Big, big breaths. So very, very similar with the straight leg as with the bent leg. Harry, let's take that leg away from you a little bit so the knee will straighten a bit and it'll just be a little more mellow. Yeah, so loosen the strap, let the strap slide. There you go. So then we're going to take both straps into the left hand and we're going to bring the right hand onto the floor. Try to really think about working the right hip, right sit bone towards the end of the mat. Press into both feet. Just like with the bent knee, the right side of the pelvis stays on the floor. Left leg doesn't change at all as we take the right leg over the left leg. So the right leg starts to go over the left leg, but we keep the left knee, left foot pointing right up towards the sky. The pelvis shouldn't lift at all in that first stage, so ease off. So you want to find each stage of the stretch. Let's bend that knee. So bring this back a little. Yeah, bingo. Good. And you can walk the foot away a little bit. Is that feeling okay, Paul? So you can always bend this knee too. You're good. Breathing. If you need to come out because it's tugging into your knee, just loosen the strap, bend the knee a little bit, and come out of the pose slowly. So if it starts to tug into your knee, you just let go of the strap, bend the knee, and bring that leg up. So here we can go a little bit further. So just like with the bent knee, the left leg is not going to change at all. But we're slowly going to let the right side of the pelvis lift, just like a sushi roller, one stick at a time. Listen to your body. Left heel stays centered, left knee points straight up towards the ceiling. So, let's see where your knee is pointing.
Is that over?
Yeah, so that's straight. Now find your foot. Yeah, there you go. And so see the heel, so you feel now you're on the center of the heel, knee pointing straight up. Good, good, good. Nice work, everybody. Relax me, relax me. Any amount you can. There you go. Let's see if we've got 5 more breaths left in us here. This is one of the most effective IT band stretches we can do. When those 5 breaths are complete, think about your sushi roller on your sacrum and come down one stick at a time. Press into both feet, root your shoulders, your ribs, your arms as you bring that leg back to center. And then once that ankle, knee, hip are stacked, you're going to take the straps into the right hand and the left hand comes onto the left hip thigh. Relax your shoulders, neutral neck. Then without the left hip lifting or without imprinting, you can take your right leg out to the right. But don't let the hips change. Neutral pelvis, neutral pelvis, neutral pelvis, neutral pelvis. That could be your mantra for the next 20 years, but it's a good mantra. You feel that, eh? Feel that. Yeah, bring that baby down. But you gotta really use your legs to strengthen that pelvis. Do your best not to imprint. If your shoulders are fatiguing, bring your elbow onto the floor. You can do the whole thing with your elbow on the floor. You can even grab your foot if you wanted to. That's come a long way, Sula. Let's go 3 more breaths here. And then when those 3 breaths are complete, bring that right leg back into center. Taking the strap once again into 2 hands. Maybe you can grab the foot without imprinting, maybe not. Pushing the foot into the strap, pulling back on the strap. Nice, deep, intense leg stretch. Magic pose. If your fingers are fatiguing, wrap the palms but not the fingers. A little bit of shaking is okay, but we don't want to turn into thumper. So if you're starting to get thumpery, back off a little bit. And then release the strap. See if you can hold the leg for a moment. Maybe you have to bend the knee a wee bit to hold it. No letting the leg pull into the back. And then bend your knee, interlace your fingers over the shins or behind the thighs as you pull that leg in. And here you can let the pelvis do what it wants if you like. Give it a little release. If it's, regularly holding the pelvis, then keep it in neutral. And then release your foot, bring it down, bend both knees, feet on the floor. Find your neutral pelvis. Find that firm base to build your yoga pose house. And then once you find that neutral pelvis, taking the strap over the sole of the left foot. Straight arms, straight leg. Neutral pelvis. Do your best not to imprint. And the option is always there to straighten out the right leg if you like. If your neck and your shoulders are fatiguing, bring your elbows a little closer to the floor. Pull with the arms as the foot lifts back up. Think front thigh to back thigh. Way more important to have a straight left leg than it is to get your hands closer to your feet than it is to straighten out the right leg. But make sure you're doing your sides evenly. Remember that once you've established that right leg, it doesn't move throughout the series. You stay on the center of the heel, you keep the knee pointing up towards the sky, and you keep the shape of the foot. Activate your toes if you can. So let's take the strap into the right hand, and let's take the left hand onto the floor, palm facing down outside the left hip. Remember, for the first stage of the pose, we keep the left side of the pelvis down as we take the left leg over the right leg. Listen to your knee. If it starts to tug, loosen the strap. Take it away from you. If you need to come out, you just bend the knee and come out. Right leg hasn't changed at all. Breathing. You want more of a stretch. Think about having a bench underneath that left thigh and push that left thigh into a bench. Pull the left femur down into the pelvis and work the left hip flexor, left sit bone towards the end of the mat. Breathing. So as we move into the next stage of the pose, we have to pay very close attention to the right leg. Don't let it lift. Think of the sushi roller on the pelvis and lift one stick at a time. Shoulders don't change, right leg doesn't change. As you let the left leg come over the right thigh, stay right on the center of that right heel and try to keep your big toe mound just as far away from you as your baby toe mound. So push your big toe mound away. So we want to sickle that ankle. There we go. Learning to use our legs effectively. Good. So you feel how this is the center of the heel. So I want you to move the whole leg. So, and then get rid of the sickle. So relax just a little bit. So you tend to go to 10 out of 10. Probably in most things.
So part of your work,
Probably most of your work is going to 8 out of 10, and sometimes 6 out of 10, and sometimes 4 out of 10. There you go. Stay right on the sole of that foot there, Keith. Don't let that leg move. And then think of your sushi roller. Fire up both feet. And bring the pelvis down one stick at a time. Feel each part of the pelvis as it connects. And just feel that stretch, how that little action changes the stretch through the leg. You don't want to miss any part of it. Every part is just as important as every other part. Every step, preparation for the next. Let's take the straps into the left hand. Let's take the right hand onto the right hip thigh. Remember, right leg doesn't move. Pelvis doesn't shift. We keep it neutral as we take the left leg out to the left. Listen to your shoulders. If they are fatiguing, bend an elbow. Bring it onto the floor. Right heel centered. Right toes pointing up towards the sky. Right knee pointing up towards the sky. Lengthen from inner groin to inner knee. Press into those feet. Breathe. Front thigh to back thigh. Calves lifting into shins. Let's take 5 more breaths here. And then once those 5 breaths are complete, find your feet, find your legs, find your arms, your shoulders, your ribs, and bring that left leg slowly back up. Eventually, when the left joints of the leg are stacking over the hip, take the straps back into 2 hands. And having the strap in 2 hands lets the arms be a little bit wider, which is nice for the collarbones and the neck and the shoulders. Straight arms is ideal, but if you're fatiguing, bring those elbows onto the floor. No harm in that. Wrap your palms if you need to. And then once those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to release your strap. You're going to try and keep your leg there. Bend your knee if you need to, especially if it tugs into your back. And then bend your left knee, interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right. Pull that thigh in towards you for the release. And then let that left foot come onto the floor. Bend both knees, soles of the feet on the floor. Let your knees touch, but take your feet a little bit wide. Baby toe edge of the foot is straight. Bring your hands onto your belly and just breathe into your hands. With each inhale, belly rising, and with each exhale, belly gently falling. Deep, full breaths. Let's go 5 more belly breaths here. And then once those 5 belly breaths are complete, you're gonna heel toe the feet back to one another. You're gonna roll off to the right side. Right arm becoming a pillow for your head. Left palm coming in front of the chest. And you're gonna push yourself up.